Welcome back, everyone. My name is Allie, and this is Bestie Bookworms. Today, I'm going to be going over my January reading wrap-up. I read a total of 22 books this January, and I think that not all of them, were pretty amazing, and I had so much fun reading this month, and I just cannot wait to share it with you. Okay, starting off hot, I was doing my reread of Throne of Glass in December, and I got to Empire of Storms, and I just remembered how good this book was. I think I rated it 5 stars just because I love this book so much, and it is so much fun to read through Aylin's story and all of the fun things that she does in her adventures, and I definitely think this is the best book in the series. However, afterwards, I got done reading this, and I did not want to read Tower of Dawn. As you can see, I tried to do a tandem read. Tower of Dawn just brings me down. It makes me not feel good, right? So I just started reading this and I didn't want to read anything else. So I didn't. So I read from Assassin's Blade to Empire of Storms, and then I ended up not continuing my reread of the series. Next up on my January reading wrap-up, I read 4 books in the Shatter Me series. I just finished Imagine Me the other day, but unfortunately I did not read it in January. I read Shatter Me in December, so I have finished the Shatter Me series, and I will tell you right now that Imagine Me is definitely my favorite. I cannot get over how good Imagine Me is. It is just so much fun to hear Aaron's story and hear him just him and Juliet is just, oh, yes. I will tell you everything after that, everything after the main, the first 3 books, I did not like. I rated, I think, the rest of them around 3 stars. I just did not like where the story went. I liked the first 3 books so much more than the last 3, and I think that's kind of common with a lot of people, just because I don't know. Aaron and Juliet, they just got so repetitive, and I was starting to get super bored. I think I rated Unravel Me 4 stars, Imagine Me 5 stars, and then these 2 3 stars. Next, I read Cruel Prince and Lightlark around the same time, so I'm going to put them in their own segment. Lightlark and Cruel Prince. So these are 2 books that I've seen a lot on BookTube and Book Talk lately, and they are not my favorites. I have actually read Cruel Prince before, but I read it 2 years ago, and I absolutely hate it. My hatred for this book was insane. It was absolutely awful, and all I did was diss on this book. Lightlark was new for me, and I have heard a lot about it. I've also heard a lot of bad things about it, which I was not excited for, and I was really hesitant to get into this, and for a good reason. This book is not for everybody. I will tell you that. I can totally see where some people are coming from when they like this. It was not for me. The characters' names really threw me off. Oro, I'm sorry. I cannot get over how weird. I hated that. Every single time his name came up on the page, I cringed. And I know some people aren't going to agree with that, but that's okay. This, I have read, I did read Wicked King the first time I read this series, but, again, I thought it was not that good. I just don't really like this world that she's created. It just isn't for me. I see how some people love and adore this world and adore Cardan and Jude, and it's not for me, really. I think I rated this 3 stars and this 2 stars just because they were not my favorite books, and I definitely was in a week-long slump after reading these. Next up, we have Powerful. So I have read Powerless and Reckless, and Powerful was always just a novella for me, and I never really wanted to read it until I saw it in the bookstore one day, and I just thought, why not? Definitely you should read this book. So many emotions came up, and well, you know what happens. If you've read Powerless, you know what happens at the end of this book, and that just makes it so much more, literally so much more powerful. And I was sobbing so hard at the end, hearing Mac and hearing Mac's side of the story, and I was just sobbing, and it was awful, and I could not get over myself for weeks. I was so sad, and I refused to read anything just because I was oh my god. This is such a sweet little novella, and I really want Mac to come back in Fearless. I think that would be such a good thing for people that read Powerful to be like, oh my gosh, I know who this is, right? And I feel like it would be such a cool Easter egg. But I think I ended up rating this 4.5 stars. I absolutely adore this book. It just didn't have, since it was a novella, I don't normally give novellas 5 stars because they're just novellas, right? But for a novella, this was so good and I loved it so much. Next up, I finished the Once Upon a Broken Heart series and I read The Ballad of Never After and A Curse for True Love. These books I love this series and I love just like the vibe that it has. And it's literally just about Evangeline trying to find love. Like, that is her only goal. Excuse me. So that is her only goal. That is like what she wants to do. She just wants to find her love. And I adored this book. I actually read about 50 pages of it in December. And then I ended up picking up Shatter Me, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a break from this and I'll come back to it later. And it took me weeks to come back from this because I was just not at an interesting part in the story. But once you get into this, you get into it, and it was just, oh my gosh. And then A Curse for True Love, I honestly didn't like as much, and I think that's the case with a lot of people, just because like I think I was only there to just see how it ended. I didn't really care about what was happening in the middle. I just wanted to know what happened to Evangeline and Jax. And that's kind of the only reason I was there. And it just like made the book not that great. And I don't know. I rated this 3 stars and this was a 5-star read for me because, oh my gosh, I love this book. And this series for a whole for me, I think I would rate it 4.5 stars. The Ballad of Never After was definitely my favorite book in this series, and this will always hold a place in my heart. Next up, I read the second and third book in the Zodiac Academy series. I know they're not the same covers, and it pisses me off. Let's just take a moment of silence. Okay, back to the review. So basically, if you've seen my other videos, you know that I do not like this series very much. I'm gonna go out on a limb. It was not real well written. It feels like something that I could have written, and it's just like, I don't know. But I feel like the idea for the story, like the plot itself, is compelling enough for me to continue. And I do think I will continue this series, but the writing is not good. And I just do not like Tori or Darcy. I don't like them, and I don't, like, whenever they make a decision, I just don't agree with it, and I'm like, why would you do that? That's so stupid. Honestly, these books are not good, and if you want to read them, like, that's awesome. And I think that I can see how some people totally love this and are just along for such a fun journey, and it is fun. I just wish that the writing could have been a little bit better. I think I rated these both 2.5 stars. I hate on these a lot, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to go back and read them. Next, we have my favorite book in January, Onyx Storm. So I have been anticipating the release of this book for so long. Onyx Storm is just perfection. I will accept no criticism. I'm just kidding. But it is so good, and I just like cannot get over. After Iron Flame, I was left in utter like shock. I was left sitting there staring at a wall for hours because I could not fathom how Rebecca Yarros could possibly go off that ending. Like, how do you even do that? Like, that's impossible. And that's what I was thinking the whole time. She made it work. Oh my god. The Zeta and Violet chemistry in this one is so much better than Iron Flame. They weren't miscommunicating. They were talking to each other, and it was awesome. Do I think this was better than Iron Flame? Absolutely. Do I think it was better than Fourth Wing? No. I love Fourth Wing like more than you could ever imagine, and this just doesn't hit as hard for me as the first one did. I do love this one, and absolutely 100% think it's way better than Iron Flame. I love how she shortened the length of the book. It was just like so much better, and I feel like this was the exact appropriate length. And I love how the series isn't getting longer and longer and longer, which I feel like is happening to so many more fantasy series. I love this little like break, and I know the last 4 books haven't come out, but it was just like so refreshing to read something that, and like later on in a series that wasn't 700 pages long. Actually, I don't know how many pages are in this. Yeah, there's only like 530 pages in this, and I think Iron Flame had, I have no idea how many pages. I think like close to 700. But I just like loved this. It was so, so good. Next, we have some of my favorite books ever, Keeper of the Lost Cities. Now, Keeper of the Lost Cities is a middle grade series, and it will always hold a place in my heart. This is like where my origin story was. This is where I got into reading, and so I've read this series countless times, and I just did another reread because of this one. This is the new book, Unraveled, and it is 9.5. Good God, are there so many books in this series? I absolutely adore this book. It follows Keith and his journey through the human world during those missing chapters of Stellarlune, and oh my gosh, I could not, it was a little boring at first, but once you get into it, I just love Keith so much, and his like sense of humor is what gets me every time. And whenever I'm in a reading slump, I always read this series. I did not read all of the books. I only read 1 through 6, but I do love all these books, and I think that this series will always hold a place in my heart. I don't think it will ever leave. And we have the 10th book coming out hopefully this year, and I am so excited. Stellarlune left me on a cliffhanger, and I will never forgive Shane the Messenger for that. I think every single one of her books ends on a cliffhanger, to be honest. But I love this series, especially Nightfall. Nightfall is one of my all-time favorite reads, and I just love it. I don't know what about it just compels me so much. Besides the first one, I think that Nightfall might be my favorite. Then maybe Stellarlune, and I am just like, oh my god, I'm in shock, and I cannot wait for the new book to come out. I don't know what it's called yet, but I've been speculating, and I think it's gonna be called Elysian, after, you know, like Elysian from the last book. And I am so unbelievably excited, and it is going to be a fine, fine, good time in my household when I'm reading that book. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for watching my January reading wrap up. I hope you liked this video, and if you don't mind, like and subscribe if you want to see more Bestie Bookworms content. Well, I think that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you. Bye.